Hi, I'm Sue Gould-Wright, and I want to talk with you today about the overuse of the stirrups, which I did a video on a little while ago, but this time it's actually in relation to the horse underneath you and the impact on them. So when we're talking about bracing into the stirrups, what we're thinking about is it's not just sort of pressing and scooting the leg forward, it's also about just using the stirrup as a pillar of support, really. So you can see as soon as I press in, my leg starts to waggle about. So that's using the stirrup too much. I'm putting all my weight down through it. When my leg is just nicely relaxed around the horse, it has a completely different feel for me, the rider, and a completely different feel to the horse underneath you. So I'll just ask Douglas to come and halt. Good lad. Good boy. Well done. So when we're thinking about the bracing into the stirrups from the horse's perspective, we've got to bear in mind that, your leg is around the horse, your seat is on the horse, your saddle is on the horse, the stirrups attached to the saddle. So when we press down into the stirrup and we overuse it, so we use it as a balancing aid rather than getting everything else working properly, we're pressing onto the horse's back. So the stirrup bar is attached to the saddle, saddle's on the horse's back, you're on that. And when we're pressing down, like I say, you are going to be exerting downward pressure onto the horse. Now, I mentioned this briefly in the last video. Some horses respond by doing nothing. Others will actually hollow their back and lift their head. So they tend to want to kind of just scootle away from the pressure. Others will be even more extreme and they'll hollow their back and they'll lift the head and they'll kind of spook away from it. So we've got to bear in mind, our horses' backs are very sensitive. We've got to think as well as if we're bracing into the stirrup and the heel comes down and we start to lean back, we're starting to exert pressure over a different area of the saddle. So here, we're over the center of the saddle. Here, we start to lean back over. We take the pressure almost behind where the saddle is sitting. And that happens to be one of the weakest areas of the horse's back, this sort of area here. It's not got as much muscle to support it, and also the vertebrae are starting to change direction, I believe, in that area. So we've got to be really, really thoughtful and mindful of what we're doing to the horse by being unbalanced ourselves and relying too much on stirrups. The other thing to think about is that when we're pressing into the stirrup, 9 times out of 10, we're not pressing evenly through each stirrup. Okay, so you may exert more pressure through the right leg, for example. That might be your dominant or stronger leg, and you're putting more pressure through that. So again, the horse is having to deal with that pressure. Now, when we're pressing down like that, the impact it has on the horse's back is, and way of going, is more to do with the fact that by pressing down, we're creating rigidity through our leg and our seat. When the horse is trying to move his hind leg under, the barrel swings out of the way effectively so the hind leg can come through, and then it presses down, and as it starts to come through, the barrel goes the other way. So if we're riding with tense legs by bracing into the stirrup, the horse can't then swing its barrel as freely. And what that means is it tends to take either shorter, choppier strides behind or toes itself along on the forehand. And I've seen rider-horse combinations just change in a heartbeat by the rider softening. Little ponies coming in, heads in the air, shuffling along at 90 miles an hour, just stretch and relax. And the horse can then start to use itself correctly. It can lengthen through its spine rather than being in this short, compact frame by the downward pressure, by the restriction here. What we've got to think as well is that, we want the horse to use its back. We're all for getting it, engaging its core and lifting up and working through its back and developing that lovely muscle tone everywhere. But if we're pressing down, it can't actually engage its core. So you get a small child to sit on your back and press in, and you try and engage your tummy, and you won't be able to do it. So it's the same with the horses. We want them to be well and engage their core and work through their back. But if we're restricting it, they ain't going to do it. I'm sorry. So that's just something to be mindful of as well. Now, again, going back to one leg more than the other. So yes, by pressing into one leg harder, you could be creating a restriction for the hind coming underneath you. So obviously the opposite hind if it's my right leg. So the hind coming underneath you. But also we're giving it a weight aid. We're giving it an aid to go off to one side. So generally young unschooled horses will follow that extra pressure and go off to the right and then get told off because they're being naughty. Other horses I've seen respond to the increased tone in the leg and they actually move away from that pressure. And again, they get told off, or they get told they're not very good, they drift off through their shoulder. Well, you're asking it to drift off through its shoulder by applying the pressure here. So if the leg is torn and more in contact, you're closing the door, other leg is more relaxed, you're opening the door, so off the horse goes into its lateral movement. And then finally, just with the increased tone in one leg, is the horse often then kind of bends around it. So if I've got more tone in my right leg, the horse is going to bend around it and it's going to start to bend to the right. And then you ask it to go on the left rein, but you've still got this pressure. It's going, well, if you get your leg off, I can do it, but actually at the minute I can't. So that's just a little tiny perspective of how it impacts the horse. I hope you found that useful. This is my 4th take. I'm hoping that there's no dogs barking. I don't think I swore in the middle because I forgot what I was going to say. And hopefully the camera has actually maintained its battery life this time because it died on me the other day. So I hope that was useful, and we'll put some more videos up soon.